Well, this episode is definitely interesting because I talk about how things were a bit 50-50 for me at the particular time, at the end of 2017 in December, because I was having some ups and downs with regards to my gigs. But more interesting because I actually quite literally lost this episode in the shuffle and never produced it and uploaded it. But here it is now. It's quite literally a lost episode. Hopefully the only lost episode.
Everybody, once again, this is Liam Wallstar here. Welcome to another edition of this version of reality. How's everybody doing? Well, as I'm recording this right now, I'm a bit 50-50. Let's say 50-50. Because there's a few things that have been going on related to both success and failure. And I've discussed a bit of that in the past episode, but keep it all relevant to the times and not refer back to old episodes, just get straight into it. It does feel right now that failure is the new success and vice versa. Like, success is also can be regarded as a new failure. I guess, what do I mean by that? Because the obvious point being, failure is the new success. To succeed, you have to fail. You know, to fail, you would have to have succeeded for so long, blah, 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 etc., etc. But I'm not ashamed to admit that I have unfortunately had a couple of failures in terms of performance, in terms of hitting the mark, you know, because, you know, in relation to the comedy in recent times, a couple of new stuff and some old stuff that I pulled up from a long time ago, and also testing it on perhaps the hardest of audiences that we're going to have right now, because we're heading towards the end of the year and everyone's just tired, exhausted, it's hot, you know, because, well, at least in Australia, you know, they're heading towards the end of the year. People, you know, get into a certain mindset where they're either really easy to get a reaction, to get a laugh out of, or it's just going to be really difficult. And, well, it was difficult the last few times that I have performed. Like, pretty much every single gig that I've been to. And when I've done my tried and true tested stuff, it's gotten a reaction. Both the gay marriage equality routine and my car park routine done good. Well, I guess I will have to refer back to a previous discussion where, you know, the whole sometimes you kill, sometimes you get killed. And the disclaimer there, again, in case anyone was wondering, you know, because I did refer to the title of the episode being similar to an NXS song, and that one was, of course, sometimes you kick, sometimes you get kicked, you know. But nevertheless, fact is that I was referring to a night where one night I did good, another night did new stuff, and it didn't fly. It was stuff that I tested at a couple of different venues, and it got okay reaction, all right. It did the job. It wasn't spectacular, but it got a reaction, and people were laughing. But then it hit the venue, and it was a hard audience. And since then, since the end of November through December, I find that people have been harder to move. Like, other people are doing their gold material, and they're having a difficult time, you know, hitting the mark. And, some things that everyone used to laugh at, not everyone's now laughing at. The same thing with, like the aforementioned routine, because the last couple of gigs that I've done have basically I've been doing my old stuff before the audience, and it's a hard audience, like I said, a rock audience. And every time I've done new stuff, it's been a little hit and miss. And I guess that's where the whole failure is the new success. Because, as I've always said, always evolving, always learning, and, we grow, we learn, we adapt, we evolve. It is tough when you go out with new stuff, or at least stuff that you haven't done for a while, and it doesn't quite get the result that you wanted. You go out on that racetrack and you expect to run a PB because you've been blitzing the times and doing well, but then you just get to that point where, unfortunately, it's just, it's not as good as it was before, and because of that, your performance lags a bit. There's the mental and as well as the physical, because no matter what you do, a bad performance can drag you down. But if you regard it as failure is the new success, in terms of failure is success in this instance, basically saying, well, I still went out there and I tested it. Not everything went the way that I wanted, but if you go back and you reflect and you adapt and you make changes, you make improvements, and you do everything that you need to do, and you'll get the expected results. But on the other hand, there is the other thing that I want to talk about, which is, of course, success is also the new failure. Hence the vice versa in the old title and the whole topic of discussion. Because it does seem as though these days that, and I feel as well that with regards to work and everything, where I've succeeded, it's ended up being a failure to impress, a failure to make an impact, a failure to get the desired achieving results, and perhaps even a failure for the appreciation with the hard work that has been done, and that can come also in the form of, you went out there, you did your best, in any job, whatever it happens to be. With regards to the stand-up, you could say, you succeeded in getting the routine done and getting everything out there, but you failed to get a laugh. So success and the failure. But more specifically, all the hard work that I've done lately with regards to, day job and everything else. And something I'm finding in society is that the hardest workers are the ones that are basically burning themselves out. And I know that I'm not the only one where success is failure, because you're succeeding so well in a particular job and role, whatever you're happening to do. And most of the time, you're not getting put up into a higher position or being, in any way, shape or form elevated to the next level. You're in fact being kept down, and it too relates to, the people around you that maybe they just don't want you to succeed. Maybe the people around you prefer you to be in a role, in a position where that's all you're going to do, because they can't find anyone else to fill that particular spot, and you get stuck in sort of, mid-card in life. It's a term of reference that people, typically use, in, I guess it even extends to, boxing and UFC, but particularly wrestling, where it's a term called mid-card hell, where you're not on the lower card where you're opening, the curtain jerker or a pre-show or anything like that. But you're not main eventing, you're not closing out, you're not, the headliner for the show. And because of that, it can also, be a form of failure in a way, instead of, because you're succeeding, but you're not being rewarded. So then success is the new failure in a way, because your success is failing to get you the recognition, is failing to get you to the next level. I know that I'm probably prattling along a little bit, but I know I'm making a point somewhere in between that some people are probably nodding their heads right now and thinking, that's a good point. And so what do you do about it? What do you do about the success and the failure? There's unfortunately not a lot you can do, except that if you're in an industry or a position where no matter how much you succeed, you'll fail to make an impression because the person there is just going to constantly hold you back and say, no, this is your spot, this is where you're going to be always. In jobs, in life, anywhere. Then one would say that you should probably find yourself another position somewhere else. Go somewhere where you are allowed to succeed, where you are permitted to have your success. When you've earned it, of course, and not just have it given to you, but if you've earned it, then it should definitely be given to you. And at the same time, you could say, well, you've done so much, you put so much time and effort into that one thing, why would you move on if you're at this level and say that go somewhere else? But if that's what you want to do, then you've got to pay your dues. But at the same time, if you're not getting that recognition, it does kind of relate to, you could say, in terms of ratings, television, or even booking, it goes back to wrestling because it's, or fight cards, anything like that. How much success you have, how much of an impression you make. But also, you've got to be vocal as well. And it can't just be all action. There has to be that vocal part of it as well, where you do have to say, hey, you've got to talk to the right people and say, what the hell, or even just get feedback from the right people and say, what do I need to do to get to that next level, to that position? What's holding me back? What is the reason for me being here in this spot always and not getting to that next spot which I need to be in, into that next, that promotion, that job, whatever it happens to be. And if they're logical, moral, ethical, sound, rational people, then surely they would be willing to talk it out and you get a dialogue going. And then that leads to success. Instead of success being failure, then success can be success. And failure, of course, would still be failure, but failure wouldn't have to necessarily be your only success, where to fail is to learn. You would instead be given a spot, given a position that you've earned, and being basically, you've earned the position, you've earned the rights, people are telling you, right, this is, they assist you on the way up, instead of holding you back and saying, nah, not your time yet, no, just wait, you just gotta wait, be the polite doorman that lets everyone in before you get in, but then it's like an exhibit for something that you've always wanted to go to, something that you waited for, paid for perhaps, and you hold the door open for everyone else and they all just walk through, and then by the time you get in, sorry, the exhibit's closed, should have come in earlier. Oh, but I was waiting for my turn. Well, unfortunately you waited too long and now you've missed your chance. can also relate to relationship goals, asking that guy or that girl out, of course. It's like, well, you wait too long, you miss your chance, they go find someone else, they don't ever know how you feel. That's why being vocal is often a good thing. Even this, for me, doing the podcast and being all topical as it is and saying, well, okay, I'm spatting off a lot of stuff right now that people may or may not be listening to. But at the end of the day, that's stuff that I feel is important to get off my chest, and also things that I feel that could help others. And at times there will be, just random discussion. Other times there'll be what's happened during my week. And I can certainly say that success has been failure for a good portion, because with regards to me achieving everything that I set out to achieve, I've pretty much burned myself into the ground, run myself ragged, and I've ended up with injuries, and I've worked through illness and other injuries, and that's led to just overall mental and physical exhaustion. And then from there, I've gone from having what was the bar of success before, I can no longer achieve it because, with regards to the injury, illness, a physical, mental, condition, being, whatever happens to be, however it relates. The fact is that it's not a level that I can now attain because this is what's happened. And now it's myself holding myself back in a way, because I'm keeping myself in this particular position as well as being held in a particular position. And that's the way it does work sometimes. Because not always is it that someone's just keeping you in a particular position. Sometimes it's that you're inadvertently holding yourself back by, sometimes people get a generalized idea about you, unfair, bias, and then you wake them up and you give them a sense of clarity and say, hey, no, this is not what I want anymore. This is not what I need. I need to get to the next point, the next level. And I know that in some ways that can also be a successful failure, because you get to keep the job, but you don't get to advance the position, get any higher. But then, failure is then the success as well, because at least then, if you fail to get your point across to that person who's just going to keep you there, keep you down, then, oh well, now you know exactly where you stand, what your position is exactly, and that it may very well be the best option to either go somewhere else where you can be appreciated, respected, if you're never going to be advancing in a position where you happen to be, or you find a way to make that success. I hope that actually makes sense. I really do. It makes sense to me. Absolutely does. Working all day and then running mentally ragged. I guess these holidays couldn't come quick enough, personally. Even though it does seem like it was a long time coming, but they came around very quickly. Because everything seems to be going faster these days. Everything's more, quick pace. Perhaps it's, the advent of technology, or maybe it's the fact that, everyone seems to be all very similarly going through the motions, and then they are not even aware that another day has passed, another week, another weekend, and then they're back to the beginning on Monday again, doing the same thing over and over again. The sense of enjoyment perhaps is disappearing from a lot of people's lives, and instead of living in the moment, they seem to be going through and just doing what other people want you to do instead of doing what you need to do. Now, this stand-up comedy is something that I needed to do this for myself and my career and just my life in general. And I've had my successes, plenty of them. That's not me being egotistical. That's saying, yeah, I've had my success. But I've also had the fair share of failure in between as well. But maybe I'm working too hard, because I know I'm doing that during the day job, where I'm working way too hard in comparison to everyone else. but at the end of the day, we're all regarded as equals in the same position, no matter how hard a person works. So maybe that could be it as well. And it goes back to my whole thing about, I guess this all links into the last couple of discussions. I need to turn my brain off. Sometimes you get killed, sometimes you get killed. All those discussions, and then somewhere in between, I think I threw in a bank episode. So, yeah. I guess you could say the I can't speak anymore. I need to work on that again. There's another successful failure. I can speak, but I cannot English anymore. The chronology of the podcast seems to be much in sequence, where people, if you're actually listening to them, then you'll get every point that I'm referring to and what I'm actually referring to, because I'm talking about me right now. If no one's guessed what the podcasts are, it's about, a lot of the time, and the last couple of weeks, it's been about me discussing things in this version of reality. How I believe they should be in this version of reality. There, I just broke the fourth wall, but now I'm going to step back into it, get back in the dirt. And that seems to be something that I know that quite a number of people have done. They work really hard, almost too hard, and then some people way too hard. And then when they're down and out, their value has only ever been placed in their work. So then when they stop working, or when they can no longer work at that level, at that pace, then the appreciation goes with it, apparently, because they only ever appreciated the fact that you worked so hard. And a lot of the time, I've found myself in many a position where I've had to help other people. So many times in life where I've had to help other people, and then when they helped, we'll talk about issues that other people have had in their life, dealing with all, getting all problematic and solutions, and then because you help them, and then, well, they don't need you for anything else, so now they're gone. You worked that hard for them, and now they are gone. They walk out. There are some people that do stay in your life, but they basically do not have an appreciation of your abilities, what you're capable of doing, because, well, let's just put it this way. The unfortunate thing is that they don't truly respect you, but they like what you can do. They like the fact that, he's a real go-getter, he can work his ass off, he'll do everything, and he'll help another person out. Another person is behind in their work, and it's a team effort at the end of the day, so we can rely upon this person to always do the work, to always get things done, to always be there to help other people. And of course, why wouldn't I? I'm a nice guy. But then, when that's all said and done, who gets the credit for getting the work done? Who gets credit for all the hard work of what you have done and what you've achieved? And that's where, the whole teamwork thing goes out the window in many jobs and positions we are in life, where all of a sudden it goes from, we need you, this is a team, to, well, you're just another individual, and it's no longer about you, it's no longer about this, it's about the fact that this was his work originally, and that person's probably not even getting credit for it. There's no loyalty, no appreciation, unfortunately. It seems to be going a lot these days, where expectations keep getting higher and higher, but the overall reward and remuneration just seems to be going down a lot. And maybe that's a part of everything as well, because its morale seems to be dropping in society, I've noticed, where people are trying their hardest to make things work in their life, and then they comply with all the rules, but then the rules are changed slightly. The rules are basically effectively altered so that what you hope to achieve is not necessarily going to be something that you can achieve, because, well, they just changed the rules. The game is now different. best example I could say is something that's a bit of a topic that people are probably sick and tired of hearing of. But, the marriage plebiscite, done, gone in Australia. That's right. Those who aren't Australian, or those who aren't aware of what happened, allow me to explain very quickly. Australia the government didn't want to pass in Parliament marriage equality, but they wanted to appear as though they were non-discriminative. So what they did was they put out a postal survey, or a plebiscite, basically a costly survey which could have been done in any way, shape or form in a cheaper way. And they already knew that the majority were going to say yes, but they just wanted to make sure in the old-fashioned method of paper ballot. But it wasn't even legally binding, that's the thing. So it was basically to get people's opinions rather than just actually motioning through government and passing legislation to say that marriage equality can be something that can be achieved for gay and lesbian couples. Now, what's happened is, of course, it passed. It passed with a 60%, not a great majority, but a majority nonetheless. And the fact is that a greater majority, but it hasn't passed, it didn't get passed straight away. They didn't, but it's apparently, as of this podcast, passed the Senate. But see, here's the thing. In the meanwhile, there are people fighting against this legislation and taking their time and arguing, debating, and wanting people to introduce laws that will allow discrimination, marriage celebrants to be able to turn people away, for businesses to be able to discriminate. Even though we pass these laws and say, okay, it's legal for a couple to be together. It's legal, or at least it will be soon enough, because logic says, if logic prevails, and especially in this version of reality, marriage equality is something that should be something, period. No debate, nothing. It's legal, so if it's legal, then there's no problem. We've analysed it, we've talked about it, we've gone up and down the issue, and the majority has said, we don't care, just let them have, let them marry in holy matrimony. All glory, holy matrimony for gays, and holy matrimony for lesbians. I don't want to upset the conservatives. But yes, and the fact is that there are people that are effectively trying to change the laws to say that businesses can turn away gay and lesbian couples. That, if they go to it's like something that occurred in America where this actually didn't pass, but then the extreme went to the other side of it. And perhaps this is where a lot of people are probably worried that, their rights are going to be, ignored in favour of just simply gay and lesbian, that PC is going to completely take over. And there is a truth to that, but by creating laws that allow discrimination, that's kind of the wrong direction. But I digress. In America, there was a story, you can look it up, so I don't feel like looking it up right now, because if you can't tell, I am recording this as I'm on the drive home once again. But the fact is that there was a story, a gay couple wanted to have a cake for their gay wedding. And what happened was they said no. There was some sort of issue there where, they didn't want to make it for them. Instead of going elsewhere, which they're entitled to do, they basically sued them. That seems to be a bit extreme. I would have said a complaint, because if they are doing that, then they should at least label it on the side, basically with their code of conduct with business and whatever the legislation is for businesses. It's your job to serve the general public and not discriminate against race, religion, sexual orientation, any of that. But they did, and they were held accountable. But the big kicker is that it was like a lot. They were sued for damages, and the lawsuits that do occur in America, and this one ran its course, and the baker had to pay him like thousands of dollars in so-called damages, and that's where I say that's the other side of extreme, and that's where a lot of these conservatives are trying to hit back and say we need to have discrimination laws to allow people to turn them away if they don't want to serve gay people. But that's the other side of extreme again. It's like, it's not about not serving, it's not about your right to or right not to. It's about simply what's fair, what's just. And you look at the law, what does the law say? The law says it's legal. And there shouldn't be any discrimination for any of that. But if they do, then my advice simply is forget them. You can make a complaint, you can go on social media, you can tell the truth as it is, but that's basically as far as I'd say things should go. Suing them and anything else harassing them, that is something that shouldn't be done. Because if they want to be discriminative in their business, then let them. Because they won't have much business, because word will come around that they discriminate against this group, against this. So what's to say that they won't do the same for another person who believes that marriage equality should be a thing, or happens to be, happens to know someone who is gay or lesbian or something like that. Then they could say, oh, well, anyone who associates are going to discriminate. But then they're cutting off their own feet, because then eventually no one's going to want to do business with them. They're going to be out of town anyway, out of business. But it does no one any favors, certainly. And that's where, devil's advocate, I'd say, where going after them for so-called damages and anything, unless they have physically gone out their way to destroy your wedding, then they shouldn't have gotten damages. All they did was basically not make a cake, and you could have gone elsewhere. And that's where it feeds into the idea of, well, we need discrimination laws. But in Australia, that's something that's happening, and I guess they've used that as reference, where businesses should be allowed to determine who they have and who they don't have. Well, you can now anyway, but for the right or wrong reasons. Either way, there are consequences to your actions, and that should be the way that it is. You shouldn't be allowed to discriminate based on any of them, any of those reasons. Because then, if it happens to you, and you find yourself in that position, then I guess it comes back to the point as well, you've just had a successful failure. You got your point across, but now no business. You've got nothing now. Yeah, so essentially what you've done, you've gotten your point across. Good for you. What a success. But the failure comes in the fact that now you've got no business. And wasn't that the original point? That comes back to successful failure, and then failure being the new success. Hopefully in that instance you could say, well, you are now failing to draw in business. So did you learn from that? Are you learning a lesson? And especially, there's a lot of business that you miss out on. But then the thing about it is, like I said, you could be earning more money, even though you might fail to get your whole point across about the whole, gays, I don't like them, it's like, well, okay, that's fine, you don't have to like them, but you still make money off them. And isn't that the point of a business? The point of business is that you make money. That's the whole point of it, to earn an income, to make a living, to essentially have what you need to have out of it. Because otherwise, what are you doing? You're just being a successful failure is what you're doing. Boom. Right on the topic. Right now, right on the head right there. Yeah, I bet you didn't see that coming. But I think, honestly, that people are just going to do what they do in life. And we got to keep adapting, keep evolving. I know I will be, and that's come in the new year. I've got a lot of hard work to do, a lot of things that are on the horizon. You know, in regards also to my YouTube channel currently, which I'll throw that in real quickly. Starting to get a few views from overseas and outside of little, the inner circle and group of friends and people that are actually aware of my channel's existence. Starting to get the subscribers, which is good. So, and eventually the US tour series on the channel is going to come to an end. I've just about finished editing it. Like I said before, it's probably the one that's taken the longest to edit and produce, because there's been quite a bit of footage there, and also because I've been doing it sporadically on and off, but perhaps I will look at just finishing everything, and then may even look at putting a abridged version, like a highlights version of all 10 days, because there are a lot of videos there, and some people may find that a lot of these videos perhaps too long, too involved, and maybe just just kind of don't have enough time to watch it. So maybe I'll have a highlights video series for the US tour, because I know I've got it for the stand-up highlights, and that seems to have, I've got a bank load of a lot of episodes, not a lot of episodes, sorry, a lot of stand-up performances, just a whole bank load of them right now, because I have done, as of right now, 34 stand-up comedy appearances. Doesn't seem like a lot, but in terms of this being my first year, aiming for 100 my first goal, aiming for 100, and by the end of the year to have 15 minutes of solid gold material, and hoping as well to get at least 30 minutes, and eventually have about 60 minutes of stuff, which I have actually produced at least 60 minutes of stand-up material in different ways, shapes or forms. Some of them have had to be merged with other routines to improve them, which is okay, because that means 2 routines survive in one. They did the fusion dance and it became spectacular. But yes, with regards to the stand-up highlights, they are a bit behind in terms of chronology, but that's okay, because I'll be putting them out. And maybe I should be taking a break from a lot of things over Christmas. Maybe I need to just enjoy things and reboot and take some time for me, but then I feel like if I stop, that everything stops. And maybe that's where I should leave it right now. Just stop this way. Let's start stopping by stopping the podcast. Yeah, I think that works. Well, thank you all very much for listening to me go on as I drive home, and like, share and subscribe if you enjoyed any of this content, and like I said, the YouTube content, which is going to be continuous. There's other stuff that will be coming up shortly, and a couple of special presentations, but I'm not going to tell you what they are. I'm just going to let you be in for a surprise. It's just going to appear. Whether you enjoy them or not, oh well, I'm putting them up either way. But it seems to be garnering quite a few views and getting the subscribers, so I guess you could say it's a success, and it's getting up there. What am I aiming for there? I guess just to put some content out there that is entertainment, that is enjoyable for all people. Variety, it's something that I hope that everyone is enjoying. Like this podcast as well. I hope that you do enjoy and that you get something out of this, because I know I do, especially by talking. And I hope you enjoy me talking. But in the meantime, I'm going to stop talking now. But my name is Liam, and I will see you guys next time.